Thank you for joining me. I'm meteorologist Brian Shields. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for being part of this weather community. Watching this blob here, of course, this is Hurricane Rafael. That is making its way off to the west. The track I showed you yesterday, it has really seemed to be the track to go with. I'll show you where this is headed. Also, there's a few other areas we are watching out there. I know Antigua, Barbuda, for example, I've been going back and forth with you overnight in the comments section. We've had some rain, some storms around this area in here, northeastern Caribbean, watching some of the rain just off to the east of Barbados, say in Trinidad and Tobago, and then eventually in the central Caribbean, there could be some development by next week. So I want to cover all of that in this video. There's a few areas to watch. Now look at this spin with me. Here's Puerto Rico, U.S. British Virgin Islands, St. Kitts and Nevis right here, Antigua, Barbuda, Anguilla. You can almost see this, this kind of broad spin right in here as I have that loop on for you. This is keeping the unsettled weather around. This is the spot. I'm going to watch for some development. I'm not seeing signs of that as of now. This will continue to march off toward the west near Haiti and the Dominican Republic, but it does mean anywhere from St. Lucia to the north. St. Lucia, we've had some rain. Martinique, Dominica, we've had some rain nearby. That's going to keep us very unsettled with that chance of rain. Could this area develop? Potentially. Just not seeing that at this moment. But with that said, seeing some of the rain chances bumping up over towards St. Martin, St. Croix, Montserrat, and Saba. Now, back to Rafael, and then we'll slide back over to that. I mentioned a few things to track together in this video, so thank you for your patience. This is just an update of the track I showed you yesterday. Today, this area in the Gulf of Mexico, it's finally pulled away from Cuba. We're thinking, of course, praying for our friends down in western Cuba that got dealt with, or were dealing with this system yesterday as it made that landfall. And now it's going to work its way through the Gulf of Mexico. And as it moves off to the western Gulf of Mexico by early next week, it is just going to continue to weaken. So this weekend, it will weaken more so. And then next week, one way or another, this area is pretty much done with. It may just fall apart over toward parts of the Gulf of Mexico, may kind of drift to the north, we'll see. But the Hurricane Center has kind of shifted their track down where my track was yesterday, and you can see everything kind of working its way over the open waters where we like it. Now down in the Florida Keys, parts of Cuba, still some of those outer bands have been moving around. No doubt isolated tornado risk, but all the models in good agreement bringing this off to the west and then eventually just kind of having this area either fall apart or still a slight chance some of the moisture gets caught up in a front and lifts up to the north, but really no further strengthening. You see all the computer models, this is over time. That's the trend we like, almost all the computer models. This is the trend we like, the weakening because of the cooler water that it is moving into, that it's in right now. The water in the Gulf of Mexico is much cooler than the Caribbean and the wind shear. So we will have that weakening trend with Rafael. So we'll cover that. I want to get back to this area in the northeastern Caribbean and then the potential of some new development. Let's start with Rafael right here. Here are those rain bands, even for us in the Cayman Islands. We may have some additional rain. Even in Jamaica, we may get a rain band or two just on the southern end of this, wrapping around parts of Cuba up toward the Florida Keys. But the bulk of this is sitting right over the water and will continue to move its way off to the west. So this here is by tomorrow afternoon. At that point, it could either still be a hurricane or a strong tropical storm in the central Gulf of Mexico. And watching the Yucatan Peninsula, this would be far enough to the north, north of Merida, north of Cancun, that there wouldn't be any major impacts or really any impacts at all. And then once we work our way into Saturday, this area is still in the central Gulf. Now this is the American model. It wants to eventually just have this area weaken and either drift and fall apart, or some of the moisture gets caught up and kind of lifts up toward Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, panhandle of Florida. Not as really a classified system at that point, but you see on Sunday generally falling apart. And you see what the winds here. So the strongest winds right over water, the yellow and the reds in here, some of the strong tropical storm and hurricane force winds, sustained winds over the water, not over Cuba, not over the Florida Keys, although if you get in a rain band, you could, of course, get some gustier winds, but then this area just drifts its way off to the west. This is tomorrow. As it weakens, the wind field is going to expand a little bit, but overall the winds are going to be weakening. But you see the winds kind of broadening out just a touch as we work our way into Saturday. Then at this point, it may kind of either dive down to the south or just kind of lift its way up to the north and continue with that overall weakening trend on this. Let me take you out in time here, going from Saturday into Sunday. This here is on Sunday, and you see losing the reds, losing the yellows, only a little bit of white. That is a sign of that weakening. Now, the European model is the model I've been trending to, and that has worked out for the track. Of course, the intensity, that's always a little bit more difficult, but the European models have the track of this overall, and that's what I've been leaning toward. A little nudge up to the north because of the front that's been to the north of it, and then watching this area that's been bringing us some of the extra rain across parts of the northeastern Caribbean. So here's the European model going out in time. Belize, we've been on the hot side. Same thing in Honduras, right? If we're drier, we're hotter. This here is by the time we get into tomorrow, and then working our way, you can see again north of the Yucatan Peninsula, still has a hurricane. Now, here's Haiti and the Dominican Republic, that area coming out of the northeastern Caribbean. That's what I'll watch to see if it does try to spin up. We saw Oscar kind of spin up quickly. Not seeing that quite as of now, but just watching that spin. I showed you that broad spin. That'll bring additional rain to Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and then here's the Yucatan Peninsula, and then eventually this area works its way more to the west over toward the western Gulf and Bay of Campeche, and then on Saturday, the European model is showing that that is the day we start to see some significant weakening with this area right here, and then even more so on Sunday. Bringing it out in time Sunday, this area continues to weaken further, and then watching some of the rain here in the Caribbean. And note the extra green on the map in the Caribbean. There's a lot more rain. I'll highlight that in a second. And then you see the European model just has this area kind of fizzle out, diving down to the south in the Bay of Campeche. But on the flip side here, a lot more moisture building in. And then I'm going to start to watch out for some signs of development. The models are hinting at some development in the south central Caribbean once we get into next week, toward the end of next week, simply because there's going to be a lot of rain, a lot of moisture around. Now, in the Caribbean, those water temperatures, 30 degrees Celsius, 86 degrees Fahrenheit. So since we're going to have a lot of moisture moving in next week, and the warm water temperatures are there are some ingredients in place for potentially a system to develop. To the north, the water temperatures are a little bit cooler, and a degree or two makes a big difference this time of year, and especially with the tropical system. 27 degrees or about 80 degrees Fahrenheit in the Gulf, and that's one of the reasons Rafael is going to weaken. But on the flip side, in the Caribbean, those water temperatures are still relatively warm, and that's why we could have some additional development. Here it is. Here's Rafael. I covered that. That's moving away. Here's this extra rain. Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Anguilla, Antigua, Barbuda. Let me know what you get over the next day or two with this area that is working in. A lot of rain. Colombia, once again, we've had more moisture. Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, we've had some significant flooding. And over towards St. Vincent of the Grenadines, Trinidad and Tobago, Grenada, you can see this moisture that's going to move in. This moisture here is going to really feed its way into the Caribbean, and that could add to the prospects or the chances of some development. This here is by tomorrow. American model, like the European model, not showing development, but the rain chance could bump up. Turks and Caicos, Southern Bahamas, Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and look at St. Lucia in Barbados tomorrow. Seeing some scattered areas of rain, right? That's with a tropical wave moving in. That's going to work its way off to the west. With this area here moving to the west, and this area here moving to the west, we're going to have a lot of additional rain, as I was showing you earlier, in the Caribbean, not just as we work our way into the end of the weekend, but also next week, and then we'll see what tries to develop. This here is by Saturday. You see some of the extra rain across Cuba, still Colombia, Costa Rica, Panama, even Nicaragua, some of that rain. Trinidad and Tobago, seeing some of the rain. Here's more of that moisture, very active pattern. Then eventually I'll be able to kind of fine tune if something will try to develop for us in the Caribbean next week. Now, Rafael, that's the name on the list. If we get another name system, that would be Sarah, then Tony, four names left on the list, Valerie, and then William for the rest of the season. Of course, the very high dangerous seas, as expected, central and western Gulf of Mexico. Meters here, feet right here, also choppy to high seas. Costa Rica, Dominican Republic over toward Puerto Rico into the north with that other disturbance, that spin I'm watching. The Atlantic facing waters, the Atlantic waters, those are going to be on the higher side. And then this here is Saturday, the central and western Gulf of Mexico, the elevated seas with this area, even though it's weakening, very dangerous seas as we go forward in the Gulf of Mexico right into early next week. Now, high pressure and control for Bermuda. We may get clipped by a couple showers every now and then, just with a front that's going to pass by in a day or two. This here is on Friday, and we've had those little fronts zipping in. You see some of the rain possible as we work our way into New Brunswick tomorrow over toward Newfoundland on the backside of it, as the these fronts move away, we get a little of that snow moving in. Here comes another system back through the U.S. and watching on Saturday what is left of Rafael back into the central Gulf of Mexico. Now out here, we did have a tropical depression develop in the Pacific region. Eastern Pacific. I'm not seeing anything super crazy with that, just kind of sitting out there. So monitoring that. Now, as far as the rain totals go, heaviest rain is working away from Cuba, but still Cuba through the Cayman Islands. If we get one of those rain bands working in, we could get a few spots of 75 millimeters of rain or 3 inches of rain. That'll be possible. As a hurricane leaves, you have these rain bands that kind of wrap in those feeder bands. In those, you could get some of those tropical downpours. Could get a 1 or 2 as we work our way through Jamaica. Let me know what you get or don't get. But then here's that additional rain in the northeastern Caribbean, and you see just some areas of white showing up. That would be a 3-day total near 4 inches of rain or 100 millimeters of rain. So while it's good for the cisterns, good for maybe some farming, we are watching out for some heavier areas of rain that could lead to some pockets of flooding. Dominica South too, because of that disturbance that is going to slide in here as well in the southeastern Caribbean. Trinidad and Tobago right up through Dominica, we could see some pockets again of 4 inches of rain for a 3-day total. So isolated flooding possible. Barbados, St. Lucia, St. Vincent the Grenadines, Grenada, over toward Martinique. Keep me posted. Not as much in Suriname. Could clip us by a little bit. Guyana over toward northern sections of Venezuela, but still watching Colombia back through Panama, Costa Rica for some higher rain totals and the possibility of flooding. Watching that up toward Nicaragua, but from about central Honduras north, that's where it's drier. Belize, I mentioned earlier, some drier weather, same thing as we get toward Mexico City. So the rain chance about 50% the next couple of days for us in Jamaica. Watching out for some of those rain bands nearby for us in the Cayman Islands today, but by Saturday, that rain chance will be dropping off. Now, as we work our way into the southeastern Caribbean, it stays unsettled. You see tomorrow and Saturday, the rain chance is bumping up. Scattered areas of rain. Could even get a couple of thunderstorms in Barbados. Rain chance stays the same in St. Lucia as Barbados, about a 50% chance in the next few days. That's why if we get some repeat showers or a thunderstorm or two, we could get some of those higher rain totals. In the rain chance in Grenada, Saturday up to a 60% chance, and a 60% chance tomorrow and Saturday, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It stays on the elevated side right through Martinique with that 50% chance and a 50 to 60% chance of rain over the next 3 days in Dominica. And we do that again lifting to the north over toward Guadeloupe. Friday and Saturday, rain chance at 60%. On the elevated side, of course, today in Antigua and Barbuda starts to go down some tomorrow. Watching out for some of that rain nearby the next couple days. St. Kitts and Nevis over toward Montserrat. Rain chance 50% today in Anguilla, 60% chance tomorrow, including St. Bart's. So watching out for those scattered areas of rain. We do that in St. Martin, Saba, and Statia. Rain chance 60% for today and a 70% chance in Puerto Rico. Isolated areas of flooding will be possible. Elevated chance of rain through the British and U.S. Virgin Islands for about at least the next couple of days. Bahamas, 30 to 40% chance favoring our southern zones. Turks and Caicos, with that moisture moving in tomorrow, rain chance up to 60%. We'll see it scattered about across the Dominican Republic. A little bit less as we work our way back toward Haiti. Rain chance 20 to 30%. Only a 10% chance in Belize. So we are on the hot side. Rain chance is limited. 20% chance in Aruba, about a 30% chance of rain in Curacao the next few days, and a 20 to 30% chance as we work our way back toward Guyana, especially on the northern side. Mainly dry in Suriname. Rain chance Cuba, about 40%. Highest chance western end with some of those feeder bands still wrapping around Rafael. So watching that western and central sections for today. And there's that higher chance Costa Rica and Panama. Watching out for the prospects of flooding. Nicaragua, about a 40% chance. It goes down, though, as we get into Honduras, about a 20 to 30% chance. 40 to 50% chance, Guatemala and El Salvador. Get back through Mexico City. We are hot and generally dry. Rain chance 30 to 40% across the Yucatan Peninsula. Now, as we work our way to northern Colombia, right near the Caribbean, that's where the rain is more likely, and that's where I'm watching out for that potential of flooding. Northern Venezuela, 30% chance today, and we could see a
front kind of squeak by with a couple more showers late Friday into Saturday for Bermuda. So Rafael in the Gulf of Mexico, tracking that weakening trend as it moves off to the west. And then that second area of rain in the northeastern Caribbean and that other batch in the southeastern Caribbean, both of those working to the west, which may lead to some new development next week in the Caribbean. Got you covered on that. I hope you're doing well. Have a good rest of your day.